There's some very weird, strange, and dangerous going on out there right now. In America, they are persecuting people for using their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. This is happening now.
Newsflash to you, Mr. Boss, Mr. Springsteen. When you guys were in charge, you actually had people inside social media shutting down people like me. It was called shadow banning. You also had people connecting weekly, if not daily, with the previous administration to make sure that the other voices, the voices of dissent, as you like to call them, would be shut down. And welcome to the Chris Plant Show. It's Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Of course, that was one of the clips from Bruce Springsteen, who is trashing America as he is overseas, as he is cashing big checks with audiences in other parts of the world. I notice he hadn't tried it here. The Springsteen trashing of Trump, his administration, the country, has not been lost on the president. In fact, President Trump's Truth Social posted the following, the truth details from Donald John Trump. I see that highly overrated Bruce Springsteen goes to a foreign country to speak badly about the President of the United States. I think that's an understatement, Mr. President. The post goes on to say, never liked him, never liked his music or his radical left politics, and importantly, he's not a talented guy, just a pushy, obnoxious jerk, in all caps, who fervently supported Crooked Joe, a mentally incompetent fool, also in caps, and our worst ever, also in caps, president, who came close to destroying the country. Not untrue. None of that is untrue. President Trump went on to say, if I wasn't elected, it would have been gone. Yes. Yeah, we all think about that. You wake up and you realize Donald Trump is your president. Had it been Kamala Harris, I know everybody gets a little shiver up their spine when they think about that. But you should be thanking God. You should be thanking your lucky stars. Yeah. If he wasn't elected, the country could have been gone. Yes, Sleepy Joe doesn't have a clue as to what he was doing, but Springsteen is, quote, as dumb as a rock and couldn't see what was going on, or could he, which is even worse, have known that? And then this is my favorite, the end of this lengthy Truth Social post from the president this morning. This dried out prune of a rocker, and prune is in quotes. That's interesting to me. This dried up prune of a rocker, his skin is all atrophied, ought to keep his mouth shut until he gets back into the country. That's just standard fare. Then we'll see how it goes for him. President Trump kind of calling out Bruce Springsteen quite publicly. Now, I was looking for the story because it didn't appear on mainstream media, and I got a friend of mine who said Donald Trump just called Bruce Springsteen a prune, and the Huffington Post has it. And he sent me a link, but it was to the Huffington Post Italian edition. And I had to put it through the Google translator because they don't automatically translate HuffPo. And it did say exactly what the president said. The U.S. president criticized the rocker's music, called him a prune who should keep his mouth shut. The president said, keep your mouth shut till you get back in the country. In other words, don't be trashing America around the world. You're trading on your reputation as an American superstar while you're trashing the country. It is not nice. But I went to HuffPo here in the United States, and I don't see the article anywhere. I'm looking at the Huffington Post website. I do not see the article. And I wonder why they're not covering that here. They don't really have a search function on their website. But President Trump calling Bruce Springsteen a prune. I have to enjoy that. I think that's kind of funny. It is funny. I will be laughing about Prune Springsteen. That's what I'm going to call him going forward. Prune Springsteen. We have a lot to get to this hour. I did mention the President of the United States on his way back from his Middle Eastern journey, where it appears that peace will be breaking out. It does to me. It appears that peace is breaking out. Even CNN is reporting that the Iranians have an offer for peace, a nuclear deal, if you will. And the president was on with Neil Cavuto's retired, Mike. It was Bret Baier with Fox who traveled with the president, as did Hannity on this trip. Bret Baier sat down with the president and talked about the Iranian situation.
Iran wants to trade with us, okay, if you can believe that, and I'm okay with it. I'm using trade to settle scores and to make peace. But I've told Iran, we make a deal, you're going to be very happy. But more than anything, I've told Iran very simply, because I heard somebody making my case last night on television. I didn't like it, because they were saying there's plenty of time. There's not plenty of time. There's not plenty of time.
You feel urgency.
Well, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and eventually they'll have a nuclear weapon, and then the discussion becomes a much different one.
So President Trump seemed to contradict himself there, saying, well, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, then they're going to have a nuclear weapon. What he was saying is, and I think we all understand it, if his deal goes through, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. He said that in front of the Saudis, in front of the Qataris, in front of the folks in Abu Dhabi. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Doesn't need 30 pages of paperwork. It just needs that one line. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And him saying they will have one if we don't do anything, because they are closer and closer to enriching enough of that precious uranium to make a nuclear weapon. So the president is working very hard, and apparently working very hard on the way home already. It's already ongoing. And the business deals out of this are just amazing. The fact that the Emirates are pledging to buy more airplane products, American-made Boeing aircraft, which have GE engines in them. So this is a win on many levels. And it's part of the $1+ trillion investment in U.S. companies that have already been secured on this trip. This is a big stinking deal. And if we get a dividend out of it, that would be, great as well. The president talked at length about getting home, too. And he wants to get home because he has a brand new grandbaby. Brand new grandbaby, number 11, that he wants to see. But I also like the fact that the president focused on Gaza and what can be done in Gaza. He's looking at doing kind of the same thing with Gaza as he's offering to the Iranians, and that is prosperity that brings peace. Remember, President Trump pitched prosperity to the North Koreans when he was in office for the first term, when he talked about what kind of a travel and tourism business could North Korea have if they completely changed their outlook, open versus isolation. And he's kind of looking at Gaza the same way. But he also talked about fixing the problem in Gaza right now.
We're going to handle a couple of situations that you have here. We have some very serious situations, and we're looking at Gaza, and we got to get that taken care of. A lot of people are starving. There's a lot of bad things going on.
Got to fix the starvation problem. The president has talked about that repeatedly, and I think that gets overlooked by the mainstream media. His concern for the humanity of the people of the region is overlooked and never given enough attention, in my opinion. And it should be given a lot of attention. He bragged about the trade deals, then got on the plane, and I think he's headed home. But as I mentioned earlier, he's also holding forth with the European leaders and Zelensky, trying to get some kind of movement closer and closer to peace in that region. There was no meeting with Putin and Zelensky. Therefore, there was no need for President Trump to join them either. I need to share with you what I think was one of the best clips of the day yesterday. It was a surgical strike by one of our favorites, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, who walked away from a very healthy radio career, a very healthy media career to become the deputy assistant to the president and the senior director for counterterrorism in part of the National Security Council. Dr. Gorka, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, said, I was in front of him about 2 weeks ago in D.C., and he said, I spend most of my days in a skiff without a cell phone. So the minute I walk out of the cell phone, my phone starts lighting up and messages are coming in from everywhere. And it happened as we were having our discussion. His phone was just flashing off and on. But yesterday, Dr. Gorka was invited to an event with Politico, an event, a public event where he was on stage with the representative of Politico, and Dr. Gorka doesn't hold back. And this magic moment happened.
A member of Al-Qaeda. If you're a member of Al-Qaeda, you're a terrorist.
How do you know if that they're members of these gangs? What I'm saying
is... You mean
is,
the tattoos, MS-13 on our knuckles doesn't...
Well,
that doesn't help it.
Those...
Do you have tattoos of Al-Qaeda?
The tattoo did not say MS-13. I don't want to get into that.
Oh, of course it does. It's just accidents that the four symbols represent the letters MS. See, this is why Politico is a joke. This is why you are gutter press and fake news.
This is why you are a joke. This is why you're gutter press and fake news. And if you think Dr. Gorka stopped there, no, he was jabbing and freewheeling on this one, and I was in for all of it.
That those four symbols that just happen to comport with the letters MS and the numbers 13 don't, in this case, represent MS-13. You're sitting here live defending a member of MS-13. That's why I regret coming here, because this isn't journalism. This is protecting those who hate America.
Protecting those who hate America, perfectly focused, and yet deserves an even stronger follow-up.
Shame on you. We are saving lives. Sir. Saving lives. How about Maryland fathers compared to Maryland mothers? Like Rachel Marin, mother of 5, raped and murdered and thrown in a ditch. How about Jocelyn Nungare, age 12, raped a mile from her home and thrown in a ditch? It's strange that Politico doesn't do articles about her, that mother, or that 12-year-old girl. Why is that? Why?
I wonder if this young lady was regretting this invitation at this point. I wonder if she was sitting there going, I could have invited somebody else to be up here on stage with me. It goes on and on and on. But it is certainly enjoyable. It is a schadenfreude moment, and I'm here to share it with all of you. Dr. Gorka, thank you. We still have to get to this amazing story about this air traffic controller and the story of our air traffic controller system, which has been in need of repair for decades. We all agree. And why wasn't anything done during the last administration? They had $5 billion in the infrastructure bill that they didn't use to fix it. And now we're seeing it, but, Mayor Pete, I guess, was on maternity leave when that happened. We'll talk about that, and we'll give you the perspective of one of the stranger whistleblowers that came out of that situation. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris.
Welcome back to the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka with you on this Friday, and I hope you're going to have a great weekend. I know I am. And then Chris should return on Monday. Thanks for being here and hanging out. Trying to get to everything. I promise you, I need time to lay out the statements from this air traffic controller who was just so it's very bizarre to me, the gentleman who is speechifying here. So I want to talk to you about, in his words, share his words with you. But also, I can't go away without sharing this latest idea from the Democrats. We've been talking about how the right side, right direction, wrong direction polling numbers are running away from Democrats. They're absolutely in the worst situation that I see them in forever. I don't remember the Democrat polling numbers being this bad in decades. And yet you'd think they would try and come up with something that would be mass appeal so the people could hang on to it. And they've already given up, I think, on the defense of the wife abusers, the members of gangs, the human traffickers, defending them and trying to get them back in the country. It seems like they've given up the ghost on that one. But I wonder which part of the Democrat Party thinks it's a really good idea right now, especially considering the polling numbers, to put Ayanna Pressley in front of the world and have her say that the biggest idea we have as a party is to demand reparations.
We are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice.
I'm not speeding this up. This is the rate of utterance at which she is delivering this message. I listen to that again. It sounds like she's on a high-speed play. She's not.
We are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. The antidote to anti-blackness is to be pro-black, and we will do it unapologetically. The United States government owes us a debt, and we need reparations now.
And right on cue, we need reparations now. Is this really the idea that Democrats believe is going to swing the pendulum back in their favor? I'm glad you've given up on defending terrorists. I'm glad you've given up on demanding that we rehome these violent terrorists from whence we have locked them up safely away from our people. I'm glad you've given that up, but do you really think this is the idea? Reparations now? And if so, if in all honesty, Ayanna Pressley and anyone else who's standing behind you demanding reparations now, if this is the answer, what will you say when Rachel Dolezal stands up and says, okay, I'm in? Are you going to prove a check for Rachel Dolezal? Is she going to get reparations? I just want to know. You can't define a woman. And when a woman who is born of two white parents steps up and says, I am not white, I am completely black, and I want to run the NAACP chapter, which she did for some time until she was caught, are you going to deny her reparations? I just wonder. I know I'm not supposed to help them, but I just think you got to point this stuff out. It's absolute craziness. It's insanity. Yeah, divide the country further. Keep it up. You guys will never win another election. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. Welcome back to The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in the last half hour of today's show. Chris returns on Monday. Thank you for being here. Appreciate everybody's ears. I want to get this air traffic controller, but the phones have been just absolutely on fire today. So many of you weighing in, joining the conversation. It's appreciated. Let's try and do a little bit of a lightning round before I share this with you. Quickly, let's talk to Chris in Round Hill, Virginia. Hello, Chris.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for having me on. I got a crazy idea here, but, you know, the Democrats have been pretty crazy themselves, and cornered animals with their low ratings do crazy things. I'm wondering if the New Jersey former FBI director is actually part of an overall strategy to dare the Republicans to arrest them, put them in jail, and then thereby gain sympathy with their core and hopefully characterize this in the next election as out-of-control Republicans jailing innocent, poor Democrats.
Well, you're probably not too far off the beam on that. Chris, the reality is Ras Baraka, the mayor of New Jersey, is claiming the same thing, that he's now reaching martyr status. If Comey were to be arrested, it would probably elicit the same kind of statement from him. But I also believe it's for him to promote his book, because Tapper's book is getting all the oxygen, and Comey's book is coming out the same day, and nobody was talking about it. So he needs promotion, he needs attention, and I don't think we give it to him. I think that's what the answer is. But thank you. And I do think he deserves an interrogation, but let's do it quietly. Don't give him all the attention he needs. Just give him all the trouble without the attention. But thank you. Quickly to Ron in Arkansas. Hello, Ron.
Thanks for having me.
Are you with me? Yeah, I hear you. You're welcome. Yes. Glad to have you here.
Yes. Okay, glad to be there. Okay, I've got a few. I don't understand why we're talking about reparations for people who didn't have slaves and people that weren't slaves, especially in California. And obviously we need to arrest some of these judges that are doing the things they're doing. Judges have been out of control for a long time, especially against fathers.
Well, we'll see if this Supreme Court decision comes down. And in terms of the reparations, I think this is just part and parcel of the party trying to reclaim their base and say, hey, we're going to give you something like they do every 4 years. But I think that base has awakened that they weren't getting anything. And you're not wrong. Giving money to people who weren't slaves from people who didn't have slaves doesn't make any sense. It's just about dividing the country, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. But thank you, Ron. I appreciate you being there. I have to share with you this story. The Wall Street Journal has interviewed an air traffic controller who apparently is going to share with us the trials and tribulations of an air traffic controller. This is on the heels of the news that yesterday, Denver's airport, which is a massive airport if you've ever been through it, a gigantic airport. God forbid you have to go from one terminal to the other to change planes in a short amount of time. It is a journey. But they went dark for 90 seconds with 20-plus planes in the air, and I'm sure that was wreaking havoc on the stress of the air traffic controllers. So you want to understand. You want to try and be empathetic. And Jonathan Stewart is the air traffic controller that was on a Wall Street Journal podcast, and he introduced himself to us.
My name is Jonathan Stewart. I'm an air traffic controller. I received my first rating in 2000. Excuse my voice, apparently I'm losing it. Occupational hazard.
Interesting. Occupational hazard. He is on long shifts. I think they're 4 hours and such. We'll get to that. 20. He's been on the job with a rating for 25 years. That's a long time. And if you want to go to work in this field, it pays well, but you can't be over a certain age. You age out of this pretty quickly. Stewart talked about, well, the reality that nobody wants an accident or an incident.
I don't think anybody wants to be involved in any sort of incident where safety is compromised. Nobody wants to be involved in that. It's not on anybody's wish list. So, yes, under a lot of stress, under duress, yes, you don't want to be involved in any kind of incident where there's a loss of life.
I wouldn't want to be involved in any incident. These planes are very expensive as well, not just the loss of life. That's horrible, yes. But if you're the air traffic controller, there's an incident even on the ground where these planes are bumping into each other. I wonder if that's the air traffic controller's issue. And can't we outfit these guys with the same kind of proximity detection technology that is on the mirrors on my car? So when somebody's approaching on the left or the right side in a blind spot, I get a warning to stop it. I was fascinated by how this guy gets rid of his stress, how Mr. Stewart handles the stress of being an air traffic controller. And he does so on the gun range.
I come here and fire off some rounds and, stay proficient at using my weapon of choice, or my weapons of choice. And it's a great way to relieve stress, yeah.
I understand this as a Second Amendment supporter, someone who encourages anyone who uses a firearm on a regular basis. Practice makes perfect, and you should be proficient. If you're going to have it, you should know how to use it. But then it got a little strange for me, a little bit different when Mr. Stewart talked about the air traffic controllers and playing God.
I like it because it's effing fun, man. Like it's for lack of a better way to put it, like we get off on it. Like we, when I say we, the Newark controllers, supervisors, line controllers, regardless, we enjoy that, man. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush, and you play God because you cannot fail. You cannot make a mistake, okay? So we are responsible for the lives of every single person on that airplane. And there's the old saying that an air traffic controller is responsible for more lives in one shift than a doctor or a surgeon or whatever in his entire career. And that is the case.
He's right. Those last couple of statements make sense, but it's the first couple of statements that make me nervous because the adrenaline junkie thing makes me very, very nervous. He talked about, Mr. Stewart, the air traffic controller, talking to the Wall Street Journal, talked about the job and what it does to your life.
The skill set that makes you a good air traffic controller makes you bad at literally everything else. Your personal life, your wives. I think I'm on wife number. I can't remember. It's not great. But you're very good at your job. So you take pride in that job. So the Newark Area C controllers, or Philly Area C controllers, they all love working traffic. Like, we push it to the limit every single day.
That last line makes me nervous. We push it to the limit every single day. I don't think I'm comfortable with that. And I also wonder, is it the job or is it the man? Does the job ruin his life, or is he a personality type that isn't suited for marriage? He said he's on wife number I can't remember. That's not a good thing. I'm just wondering, is this an adrenaline junkie who got into the system? I would like to know, Mr. Stewart, what are the stats on the rest of your peers? What about the other air traffic controllers? Are you all of the same mindset? Are we going to the range together? I'm just wondering. And I do know there are staffing issues as well.
The staffing is relatively, in my opinion, inadequate. And that's based on the numbers that we are told we should have versus the numbers that we do have. And that is in no way to place blame on anybody, because that is not my forte, so to speak. But it is a challenge when you have to work multiple radar sectors combined. That is going to place limitations on how many aircraft you're going to be able to effectively and safely control.
I go at this from the standpoint of, look, we know the air traffic controller system is hopelessly outdated. When you see floppy disks being used on the computer systems and the agency, the FAA, telling us, as Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, did the other day, last week, telling us they have to go on eBay to buy spare parts. This is crazy. It should have never gotten to this point. Look, 120 days into this administration, you can't blame this administration for this kind of inefficiency or dangerous conditions. And yeah, it's been going on for a while. But what happened to the $5 billion we allocated out of the Inflation Reduction Act, or whatever the hell it was, the infrastructure bill, whatever the last administration was using to shovel cash out to the various departments? There was $5 billion allocated. And I think $1 billion of it may have been spent. But there's been zero progress, absolutely zero progress. And in fact, the deterioration continues every day. And the human factor, which is a critical part of this, you have to wonder why that hasn't been automated. We talk about all of the Elon Musk, who talked, I think I played the clip where he talked about the robo-taxis and how we're getting ready to have fleets of robotaxis taking over. He's going to have, they already have, as we speak, there are semi-tractor trailer trucks that are being driven without humans between Houston and Dallas. They're hauling thousands and thousands of pounds of goods without human drivers. If we're doing that, why can't we do this? All of these planes speak the same technical language. Why can't the same technology that will protect people in cars protect people in planes? The planes pretty much fly themselves. Takeoff and landing, I think, are the only times really where the pilot's that involved on these commercial airliners. Why can't that technology be modernized? The industry has to pay for it, obviously, and you have to pay controllers more if you're going to put them under this kind of stress. Really interesting. Really interesting. And this was the reporter talking about Jonathan Stewart.
What's been the toll of the fatigue and stress of the job on you personally?
Me personally, it's not good for your health. That lack of sleep coupled with stress is a killer. It's not good for you. And in my situation and other people are out on trauma leave, you do have acute PTSD, and you do have situations where you will have a recurring dream about the incident, and then that will make you uncomfortable enough to where you don't want to go back to sleep. So that can be a little bit of an issue as well.
Yeah, sleep is kind of important. If you don't get it, we know what happens to your brain. Everybody needs 6.5 hours of sleep every night so your brain can clean itself out. This concerns me, but I'd like to know, this is one controller. What about the others? Has anyone done the survey on the others? Because I would like to know. I'm planning on getting on a plane soon. This doesn't make me feel comfortable, but I also want to know, what did you do with the money, Mayor Pete? Where was the money? We all know that the hotline between the Pentagon and Reagan National that was established with the FAA in order to talk about air traffic, well, that seems to have broken when Mayor Pete was on maternity leave. Yes, I intentionally said maternity leave. So why hasn't that been mentioned more publicly? The issue is critical. And I know that the Transportation Secretary is on this, all over this. And I'm hoping they will fix it before I get on a plane next. But it is more than disturbing. All right, I have to put a bow on this show. I got to get a quick break in here. And when we come back, we'll see if there's any remaining important opinions hanging out on the phone lines. And I have big news from the FBI director, Kash Patel, and he made a presentation of a very, very big announcement. It happened on Fox Business, and Dan Bongino was by his side. I'll share it with you just around the corner. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka, my name's sitting in for my friend Chris Plant, who will return on Monday. I have it on good authority. I firmly believe that is the reality, but I thank you for being here today. Got to say hello. My sister Sue is listening in Chicago on the great WLS. I just heard. That's always nice. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate you being. Appreciate everybody who's been part of the program today. We tried to get to everything. Obviously, the Comey story, I think, is a gigantic story. And while I do think he is craving attention, and the best thing we could do is not buy his book, it's kind of the same thing I feel about the Tapper book. I don't think we should buy that either. I know you may want to find out what's in it, but there's going to be enough clips out there. So why support that? I'm not going to be there for it. So Comey's book comes out the same day Tapper's book comes out. What a coinkydink. He's suddenly everywhere. He's in the spotlight. I'm not going to go to his book signing. I'm not going to show. No. Just let him wallow alone by himself. But I do think it'd be fun for him. Well, fun for me to know that he was going through an interrogation, a visit from the Secret Service like my friend Sabo got when he made a toilet seat with Obama's face on it. Yeah, give him that same treatment. But we will see. I mentioned Kash Patel with Dan Bongino by his side, the FBI director and the deputy director of the FBI, making a very special announcement today in case you missed it.
Look, the FBI is 38,000 when we're fully manned, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus-up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing in the next 3, 6, 9 months. We're going to do that hard. And, you know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget.
We want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
Kash Patel, the FBI director, friend, I have to say. Dan Bongino, deputy director, friend. Two guys I respect greatly. Broke news I guess it was earlier in the week with Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business talking about the J. Edgar Hoover building. It's unsafe for the workforce. Can we get some details on that? And how long have we known it's not been safe for the workforce? I think that's a really important question that someone needs to ask. And what's going to go in there? What are we going to put? Are we going to sell that building, the Hoover building? There certainly are going to be a lot of empty federal buildings once the president gets his plan in place. And you know the plan is to try and shrink the swamp and return some of those jobs, those opportunities to the local markets. I like Kash Patel putting more agents back in the field in the local communities, just like I like the education department turning over control to the local communities. And we should see efficiency on the rise. Big thanks to Michael Piercy for helping me get through this. Jane on the phones, appreciate you. I will be here when Chris needs me, but Monday through Friday next week, I will be on WMAL from 3 to 6 p.m., so if you're so inclined, hang out. Join us. Until next time, it's Mike Opelka reminding you, testudo, my friends. Mr. Trump, did you have something to say?
I'll see you again soon, and I'll see you a lot. Thank you all very much. Thank you.